The trap that's been hidden from you? Right now, somewhere in America, a driver just got pulled over for a broken tail light. In 2 minutes, they're going to say the wrong thing. In 5 minutes, they're going to destroy their own legal defense without even knowing it. And in 30 minutes, they're going to be sitting in a police station wondering how a minor traffic violation became a federal case. This isn't a hypothetical. This happens hundreds of times every single day on American highways. And the most terrifying part? The driver thinks they're cooperating. They think they're being helpful. They think they're innocent. But innocence doesn't matter when you don't understand the hidden rules of traffic stops. I've spent 15 years defending drivers who made this exact mistake. Drivers who thought a traffic stop was just a traffic stop. Drivers who didn't know that the moment they open their mouth, they're either protecting themselves or destroying themselves. There is no middle ground. By the end of this video, you'll understand the exact psychological trap that law enforcement uses on American highways. You'll know the 3 sentences that separate people who protect their rights from people who hand their rights away. And you'll understand why so many innocent drivers end up with criminal records they never deserved. The psychology of the first 30 seconds. Most people don't understand what's actually happening during a traffic stop. When you get pulled over, you're experiencing an acute stress response. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated, your heart rate is elevated, your judgment is compromised, you're scared, even though you know you haven't done anything wrong. And the officer knows this. They're trained for this. They know that scared people cooperate, scared people talk, scared people make mistakes. The first 30 seconds of a traffic stop are the most critical, not because of what the officer is saying, but because of what you're about to say. Everything you say in those 30 seconds will be written down. Everything will be recorded. Everything will be used. The officer walks up to your window and asks a single question. Do you know why I pulled you over today? It sounds casual. It sounds like small talk. It sounds friendly. It's actually a trap. Because the moment you answer that question with anything specific, you've made an admission. You've confessed. You've given the officer exactly what they need to justify further investigation. Most drivers answer this way. Yeah, I was probably going a little fast. Or I might have drifted a bit. Or I think my registration might have expired. Each of those answers is a confession. Each one is a verbal admission of guilt that will appear in the police report. Each one is evidence that will be used against you in court, and the officer knows exactly what's going to happen. They know that scared people confess to things they're not even sure about. They know that anxiety makes people want to explain. They know that the human instinct is to justify. So they ask that one question, and they wait for you to destroy yourself with your own words. The legal framework nobody understands. Here's what the law actually says about traffic stops, and this is where most people get it completely wrong. A traffic stop is a temporary seizure of your vehicle and your person under the Fourth Amendment. That means it's subject to constitutional protections. That means you have rights. The first right is that the officer needs a valid reason to stop you. A broken taillight, speeding, swerving, something observable and articulable. The second right is that the stop has a defined purpose and a defined duration. The officer can stop you long enough to issue a ticket or warning related to the reason for the stop. Nothing more, nothing less. The third right is that any search of your vehicle requires either a warrant or your consent. There's no middle ground. Either they have a warrant signed by a judge or they need you to say yes. But here's where law enforcement exploits the gap between what the law says and what drivers understand. Most drivers don't know these rights exist, so they cooperate in ways that waive them. They answer questions they don't have to answer. They consent to searches they can refuse. They let the stop extend beyond its legal purpose. And by the time they realize something went wrong, it's too late. The first trap, the opening question. When the officer asks, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" you need to understand what's actually happening. The officer is using a technique called open-ended interrogation. They're asking you to provide information. They're fishing for admissions. They're hoping you'll confess before they even tell you what you did wrong. And it works. It works nearly every single time. But it doesn't have to work on you. Here's the exact response that protects you. Say this word for word. "Officer, I'm happy to cooperate fully. I don't believe I was doing anything wrong." That's it. That's the entire response. Write it down. Say it out loud right now. Practice it until it feels natural. Why does this work? First, you're being polite. You're showing cooperation. You're not being defensive or argumentative. Second, you're not admitting anything. You haven't said whether you were speeding, drifting, or breaking any law. You've simply stated your position. Third, you've shifted the burden back to the officer. Now they have to tell you what they observed. Now they have to articulate the reason for the stop. They can't just fish for confessions anymore. Most drivers don't know this response, so they answer the question directly. They confess, they make the officer's job easy. But smart drivers use this response, and suddenly the entire dynamic of the stop changes. The second trap, the extension trap. Once the officer has your license and registration, they start asking casual questions. Where are you coming from? Where are you headed? What's in the trunk? Why do you seem nervous? Have you had anything to drink? These questions sound innocent. They sound conversational. They're not. Each question is designed to accomplish one thing: build legal justification for extending the stop beyond its original purpose. Under Supreme Court law, an officer cannot extend a traffic stop without developing reasonable suspicion of a crime. So they're trying to create that suspicion through conversation. They're asking questions to get you to say things that sound suspicious. They're watching your body language. They're looking for signs of deception. They're building a narrative. And most drivers don't realize this is happening. They answer every question. They try to be friendly. They think cooperation is the best strategy. But cooperation is how you lose. The moment the officer has finished with your documents, you need to ask one specific question. Officer, am I free to go now that you have my documents? That's it. That's the entire question. 15 words. Why does this work? Because it forces the officer to make a decision. Either they release you or they articulate a legal reason to detain you further. They can't just keep asking questions indefinitely. They have to justify the extension on legal grounds. Most drivers sit silently and wait. And the officer keeps asking questions, and the stop goes on, and the officer's reasonable suspicion builds. But smart drivers ask that one question, and suddenly the officer has to choose: wrap up the stop or justify the extension. The third trap, the consent trap. This is the most dangerous moment of any traffic stop. The officer asks to search your vehicle, and here's how they frame it. They don't say, "I would like to search your vehicle." They say something casual. Something that sounds like you already agreed. Mind if I take a quick look? Or I'm just going to take a peek at the trunk? Or let me just see what's in the back seat. The casual framing is intentional. The phrasing is designed to get your head nodding before your brain processes what you're agreeing to. And most drivers say yes. They think saying yes makes them look innocent. They think that if they have nothing to hide, they should cooperate. But saying yes to a search is the most dangerous thing you can do. Because once you consent, the officer can search everywhere. Everywhere. Every container, every bag, every compartment, everything. And anything they find can be used against you. Even if you didn't know it was there. Even if someone else put it there. Even if it's legal. Here's the exact response that protects you. Officer, I do not consent to any searches of my vehicle. That's it. Memorize those 10 words. Practice saying them. Get comfortable with them. Why does this work? Because consent is the only legal basis an officer has without a warrant. Without your consent, they need probable cause. They need to justify the search on legal grounds. And without your words, they don't have probable cause. They don't have the right to search. Most drivers consent, and the searches happen, and the stops escalate, and lives get destroyed. But smart drivers refuse. And the stops end faster, and their rights stay intact. The complete strategy. Let me give you the complete strategy so you understand how all three tactics work together. First, when asked why you were pulled over, "Officer, I'm happy to cooperate fully. I don't believe I was doing anything wrong." Second, after the officer has your documents, "Officer, am I free to go now that you have my documents?" Third, if asked to search, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches of my vehicle." Those three responses, that's your entire protection. You're being polite. You're being cooperative. You're just protecting your rights at the same time. Why this matters. Most drivers don't understand that their words are the only thing stopping law enforcement from searching their vehicle. The officer doesn't have unlimited power. They have constitutional boundaries. They have legal limits. But those limits only matter if you invoke them. Those rights only protect you if you exercise them. And most people never exercise them. Most people never invoke them. Most people just cooperate blindly and hope for the best. Write these 3 responses down. Put them in your phone. Say them out loud 5 times right now. Because when those lights come on, you won't have time to think. You'll just respond. And if you've practiced these words, you'll know what to say. Comment below and tell me which response you'll memorize. Tell me if you feel more prepared now. If this video helps you, share it with your friends and family. Share it with your kids. They might encounter this before you do. Like and subscribe for more content that actually protects you. Because knowing your rights isn't just legal knowledge, it's freedom, it's power, it's protection. You have more control in a traffic stop than you think. Use it. I'll see you in the next one.